chosen one, God does not raise his voice. In every encounter recorded across sacred history, his presence arrives as breath, as whisper, as something so quiet it can only be heard when the noise stops. So, when I tell you that God screamed at heaven, I need you to sit with the weight of what that means. Something happened, not in the distant past, not in a parable. In the last 72 hours, a spiritual structure that has been monitoring your trajectory made a calculated move to ensure this message never reached you, not figuratively, operationally. You have felt the interference without knowing what to call it. The sudden fatigue that arrives the moment you sit down to seek God, the way clarity scatters right before it lands, the distractions that have no logical source, but perfect spiritual timing. That was not coincidence. That was interception. And the reason God is furious is not because you failed to push through it. He is furious because the thing that has been blocking you overstepped. It reached into a timeline that belongs to you, rearranged what was scheduled, and delayed something that was never supposed to be delayed. Today, God is putting it back, not gently, not gradually, with the full weight of a father who watched his child get ambushed long enough and decided to stop being patient. If something in your spirit just confirmed what you are hearing, type "I hear the call" in the comments right now. That confirmation is the reason this message survived the interference and found you anyway. I want you to notice something about yourself right now. You did not scroll past this. Millions of people did. They saw the title, they felt the pull, and something redirected them. A notification. And 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. A thought. A sudden urge to check something that did not matter. But you are still here. And the reason you are still here is not because you have more free time than everyone else. It is because something in you has been trained by years of spiritual pressure to hold your ground when the signal gets jammed. That is not a personality trait. That is a divine installation. God built your persistence into the architecture of your nervous system because he knew the enemy would try to intercept this exact moment. Let me describe you with a precision that should unsettle you slightly. You are the person who wakes up at 3 in the morning not because of insomnia, but because something is pulling you into a conversation you cannot yet hear clearly. You are the one who walks into a room full of people and immediately feels what no one else is registering. The tension beneath the laughter, the grief hiding behind the productivity, the silent cry that the person next to you does not even know they are releasing. You carry that without being asked. You carry it without being trained. And you have started to wonder whether the weight you feel is your calling or your punishment. You are the one who gives advice that changes the direction of someone else's life, and then goes home and cannot figure out why your own path feels stuck. You hold space for everyone around you. You pray for them, you believe for them, you carry their pain until they are strong enough to carry it themselves. And then you sit alone with a question you have never said out loud. Why does it seem like everyone I help moves forward while I stay in the same place? That is not ingratitude. That is the sound of someone whose gift has been operating at full power, while the receiver, for their own blessing, has been running on almost nothing. There is a fifth sign, and it is the one that will tell you more about yourself than the other 4 combined. You have been through something in the last 6 months that should have broken you, not inconvenienced you, not stressed you, something that had the structural force to collapse the foundation of your identity, a relationship that ended without explanation, a financial blow that came from a direction you were not watching, a health scare that arrived right when you were beginning to build momentum, and you did not collapse. You bent, you ached, you cried in places no one saw, but you did not stop. Something in you refused to go down, And that refusal was not stubbornness. It was the seal of God on a life that the enemy does not have permission to destroy, only permission to delay. I am going to answer the question of why today. But first, I need to name something you have been experiencing that almost no one in your spiritual community has been willing to explain to you honestly. You have been doing everything right. The prayers, the obedience, the fasting, the trust, and the results have not matched the effort, not even close. You watch people who started after you arrive before you. You watch doors open for people who did not knock as long as you knocked. And the voice in your head, the one that sounds like wisdom but operates like poison, tells you that maybe you are the exception. Maybe the promises are real for everyone else. Maybe you missed the window. That voice is a liar. And today, I am going to show you the mechanism it has been using to keep you believing it. If you can feel the weight of what I just said settling into your body, if there is heat in your chest or pressure behind your eyes, that is not emotion. That is recognition. Your spirit is confirming something your mind has not caught up to yet. Type "chosen" before time in the comments, because what is about to be revealed in this message was written for you before you had a name. Here is what you have been calling laziness. You sit down to work on the thing God put in your heart, the project, the vision, the step of obedience that requires your full attention, and within minutes your mind scatters, not because you are undisciplined, not because you lack commitment, but because something you have never been shown is operating beneath the surface of your focus. You blame yourself for the fog. You tell yourself that if you just tried harder, woke up earlier, prayed longer, the breakthrough would come. But the fog is not a character flaw. The fog has an address, and the address is not in your willpower. It is in the way your brain has been systematically disrupted by a pattern you did not choose and were never warned about. I call this the interception pattern. It works like this. Every time you approach a threshold, a moment where what God has prepared is about to land in your life, something activates. Not a demon sitting on your shoulder, whispering doubts. Something more sophisticated than that. A neurological disruption that mimics laziness, that mimics apathy, that mimics the feeling of being spiritually abandoned, but is in fact a conditioned response that was installed in you by years of living in a system that was never designed to support the kind of mind you were born with. You were not built for the conveyor belt. You were built for the wilderness. And the conveyor belt has been punishing your brain for refusing to fit since the day you entered a classroom and realized that your way of thinking did not match what was being rewarded. Consider what happens to a child who sees patterns that the teacher is not teaching. A child who asks a question so deep that the adult in the room does not have the framework to answer it. That child does not get celebrated. That child gets redirected. And redirection, when it happens enough times, teaches the brain to associate its own genius with punishment. So the fog you feel when you approach your calling is not weakness. It is the ghost of every time your original wiring was told to sit down and be normal. Your brain learned that operating at full capacity draws fire. So it dims itself automatically the moment you step towards something that matters. That is not a metaphor. That is a pattern I have seen hundreds of times, and it always follows the same sequence. First, you feel the call with absolute clarity. Second, you begin to move toward it. Third, the fog descends. Fourth, you interpret the fog as God withdrawing. Fifth, you stop. And the enemy does not need to do anything else because you just stopped yourself. The interception was not the fog. The interception was the interpretation. You believed the fog meant God left. It never did. God did not leave. God was blocked, not from his side, from yours. The receiver was disrupted. The signal was intact the entire time. The broadcast from heaven never stopped. But the antenna, the part of you that was designed to receive with full clarity, had been taken offline by a pattern that you inherited, that was reinforced by every system you passed through, and that no one in your life ever had the language to diagnose. And you, chosen one, are not less spiritual than the prophets and mystics who heard God clearly. You are more interfered with. So the 5 years you spent wondering what you did wrong, the seasons where you fasted and prayed and heard nothing, the nights where you cried out and the ceiling felt like concrete, those were not seasons of divine silence. Those were seasons of receiver failure. And the difference between those two things changes everything. Because if God was silent, you have a theology problem. But if your receiver was down, you have a problem that can be fixed. And it can be fixed faster than you think. You are not behind, you are disrupted. And disrupted is not the same thing as disqualified. If that distinction just unlocked something in your chest, type "restoration is mine" in the comments. Because the restoration I am describing is not theoretical. It has already begun. The fact that you understood what I just said is proof that the receiver is flickering back online. Now I want you to understand something about the way God has been operating in your life that will reframe the last several years entirely. You have been looking at your situation through the lens of progress. How far have I come? How much have I achieved? How close am I to the thing that was promised? And by that measurement, you feel behind. You feel like the timeline has slipped. You feel like you were supposed to be somewhere by now that you have not yet reached. But God has not been measuring your life by progress. He has been measuring it by depth. And depth and progress are not the same axis. Progress moves horizontally. It asks how far. Depth moves vertically. It asks how rooted. And what God has been doing in the hidden season you just endured was not punishing you for being slow. He was driving your roots so deep into soil that the thing he is about to build on top of you will not topple when the wind comes. You were not delayed. You were anchored. And anchoring feels like nothing is happening because all the movement is underground. I call this the depth inversion. It is the spiritual principle that explains why the people who are called to carry the most are always the last to be released. It is not cruelty. It is engineering. A skyscraper does not begin with the first floor. It begins with a foundation that goes deeper than any visible structure. And the deeper the intended height, the deeper the required foundation. So, when you look at the person next to you who seems to be building floors while you are still underground, you are not comparing equal assignments. You are comparing a 2-story house to a tower. Their foundation was finished in a season because what they are carrying fits on a shallow base. Yours is still being laid because what God intends to place on you requires a base that reaches bedrock. That is not motivational language. That is structural truth. And the moment you understand it, the jealousy dissolves. Not because you force yourself to be grateful, because you finally see that the comparison was never valid. You were never in the same category as the people you were measuring yourself against. You were in a different engineering class entirely. The weight you have been carrying was not evidence that God forgot you. It was evidence that He is building something on you that requires a foundation most people would not survive laying. Maybe right now you are thinking that this sounds hopeful, but your situation is different. That the delay you have experienced is not strategic. That what you went through was not formation but genuine loss. I want to honor that thought because it is the thought of someone who has been honest with themselves long enough to earn the right to be skeptical. But here is what you have not yet seen. The loss itself is part of the depth, not because God caused it, because the way you carried it changed the composition of your foundation. Grief carried with faith does not destroy the base, it hardens it. Disappointment met with continued obedience does not weaken the structure, it densifies it. You thought the loss was subtraction, it was compression, and compressed material holds more weight per square inch than anything that has never been tested. I have seen this pattern operate in the lives of people whose names you know from sacred text. Joseph did not spend years in a prison because God lost track of him. He spent years in a prison because the administration of an entire nation was about to be placed on his shoulders, and the depth required to hold that assignment could not be built in comfort. It had to be forged in the exact conditions that would make any reasonable person believe they had been abandoned. The prison was not the punishment. The prison was the foundation being completed in the only environment deep enough to finish it. And Jonah did not end up in the belly of that creature because God was angry with him in the way most people teach it. God was angry because Jonah was running from an assignment that required a depth Jonah had not yet developed. The belly was not punishment, it was a compression chamber, 3 days of absolute darkness, absolute isolation, absolute surrender. And when he emerged, the same man who ran from a city walked straight into it and spoke with an authority that changed the trajectory of an entire civilization. What changed was not his theology. What changed was his depth. The belly gave him the foundation that the assignment required. Your season has been your belly, and the fact that you are hearing this message right now tells me the compression phase is ending. Not because I am prophesying a date. I do not do that, and I do not trust anyone who does. But because the pattern is consistent, when the foundation is complete, the first sign is always the same. Clarity begins to return in fragments. You start hearing things you could not hear 6 months ago. You start seeing connections you missed for years, and something that felt like dead silence begins to feel like a conversation that was happening the entire time, just below the frequency your disrupted receiver could detect. I want you to close your eyes for a moment if you can. Just 3 seconds. Feel the weight in your shoulders. Feel wherever you are holding tension right now. Your jaw, your chest, the space behind your eyes. That tension is not stress. That tension is the residue of carrying a foundation season without anyone around you understanding what was being built. Now breathe, 1 breath, and as you exhale, let the first layer of that residue go. Not all of it. Just the outermost layer, the part that was never yours to carry. The part that was placed on you by people who mistook your depth for delay. Now, I want to pause and hold something in front of you before we continue. Over the past few years, something has been discovered in research laboratories that most people who care about the things we have been discussing have never been told about. Not because it contradicts what is sacred, because it came from a direction most of us are not watching. A small group of neuroscientists, led by a doctor in New York who has spent 20 years studying this, found something about the way the human brain is designed that explains something most spiritually sensitive people have felt but have never been able to name. Something so fundamental it traces back to a Nobel Prize, yet so simple in its application that it sounds almost suspicious at first. I am going to tell you what they found later in this message, but right now, hold this question. What if the reason your mind feels foggy is not age, not lack of discipline, and not spiritual failure? What if something was taken from you? There is a second mechanism that has been operating alongside the interception pattern, and it is more dangerous because it disguises itself as virtue. You know the feeling of pouring yourself out for others until there is nothing left. You know the exhaustion that comes not from physical labor but from emotional and spiritual expenditure that never gets replenished. And you have been told by well-meaning voices in your community that this is what sacrifice looks like, that emptying yourself is the proof that you are walking in your calling, that if you still have energy left at the end of the day, you did not give enough. That teaching is incomplete, and the part that is missing is the part that has been destroying you quietly. I call this the Depletion Doctrine. It is the belief that spiritual maturity is measured by how empty you become, and it has been operating in your life as a permission slip for self-destruction that nobody around you has the courage to challenge, because it is wrapped in the language of holiness. But God did not design you to be a reservoir that only drains. He designed you to be a channel, and a channel that receives and releases stays clear. A reservoir that only empties eventually cracks. The Depletion Doctrine tells you that rest is laziness, that boundaries are selfishness, that asking to receive is a failure of faith. And every time you obey that doctrine, you reduce the capacity of your receiver by another fraction, not because God is punishing you for serving, because the neurological system that God installed in you requires input in order to maintain output. You cannot run a signal through a depleted antenna. The science on this is absolute. The brain that does not receive restoration operates at a fraction of its designed capacity, and the spirit that moves through that brain, no matter how willing, is constrained by the hardware it is moving through. Look at how long you have been running on fumes. Count the months. Some of you need to count years. You have been operating on caffeine and obligation and the stubborn refusal to let anyone see you falter. And every morning you wake up and push through another day, wondering why the fire that used to light up your chest when you prayed has become a flicker you can barely find. The fire did not go out. The oxygen supply was cut, and you were the one cutting it because someone told you that needing oxygen was weakness. So the burnout you have been experiencing is not a sign that you need more faith. It is a sign that the receiver God gave you has been running without maintenance for years, and the interference that was already present has been amplified by the depletion you were told was devotion. You were not failing God by feeling exhausted. You were being taught to destroy the very instrument God gave you to receive Him. Type "I release this" in the comments if that just set something free inside you, because the guilt you have been carrying about your tiredness was never yours to carry. It was installed by a doctrine that benefits from your exhaustion, and today that doctrine loses its grip. There is a third pattern that I need to name because it is the one that has been running the longest without detection, and it connects directly to why God screamed. You have been living your entire adult life with a version of your mind that is operating at a fraction of its designed capacity. Not because you are unintelligent. If anything, the opposite is true. Your mind is so active, so perceptive, so loaded with spiritual sensitivity that it burns through its resources faster than most people around you can comprehend. But here is what no one has told you. The capacity of your mind is not determined by how hard you think. It is determined by how synchronized your brain is at the structural level. And that synchronization, the one you were born with, has been gradually eroded by every system you have passed through since childhood. There is a study that most people in spiritual communities have never encountered. In 1981, a scientist named Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize for proving something about the human brain that changes the way we understand potential, intelligence, and spiritual receptivity. He proved that the human brain has two hemispheres, left and right, and that these hemispheres were designed to operate in full synchronization. When they are synchronized, what emerges is not just intelligence, it is a state the researchers called whole brain activation, a state where creativity and logic merge, where intuition and analysis work together, where the part of you that hears God and the part of you that plans your next step are running on the same frequency at the same time. Here is the part that matters. Researchers tested children, 98% of children under the age of 5 operate at the level of creative genius. That is not an exaggeration. That is the data. Their hemispheres are naturally synchronized. They see patterns adults miss. They ask questions that reveal structural truths the adults around them have stopped noticing. And then something happens. School happens. Standardization happens. A system designed to produce obedience rather than original thought begins to reshape the neural pathways that were keeping those hemispheres connected. By adulthood, fewer than 1 in 1,000 people maintain that level of synchronization. You felt this. You may not have had words for it, but you felt the moment your mind began to narrow. The way you used to see the world in layers, in color, in depth, and the way that vision slowly flattened into a single dimension. The ideas that used to arrive fully formed began to arrive in fragments. The clarity that used to feel effortless became something you had to fight for. That was not aging. That was not normal decline. That was desynchronization. The two halves of the brain that God designed to work as one were pulled apart by a system that rewards one half and punishes the other. I call this the split capacity. And it explains more about your spiritual life than any sermon you have heard in the last 5 years. Because the receiver I have been describing, the antenna that picks up the signal from heaven, is not a mystical organ floating in your spirit. It is a neurological state. It is whole brain activation. When both hemispheres are synchronized, your capacity to receive, to discern, to feel the presence of God in real time operates at its designed maximum. When they are desynchronized, which is where most adults live, the receiver is running on partial power. You can still hear whispers. You can still feel nudges. But the full bandwidth of what God is broadcasting toward you is being received through a signal that is operating at maybe 20 or 30% of its capacity. That is why your prayers feel flat. That is why you read scripture and the words sit on the surface instead of landing deep. That is why you can feel God is near, but you cannot hear what He is saying clearly. The volume on His end has not changed. The receiver on yours has been degraded, and the degradation happened so slowly, over so many years, that you normalized it. You thought this was what spiritual life feels like. It is not. It is what spiritual life feels like through a fractured receiver. If you have tried binaural beats or brainwave products before and found them underwhelming, what I am about to describe addresses that directly. Those products target only a fraction of the picture. Sound waves alone are incomplete. What I am going to tell you about now targets hemisphere synchronization at the whole brain level using a multi-layer protocol developed from years of clinical refinement. That is a different mechanism entirely, and it produces a different category of result. But here is what most messages like this never say. What you have learned until now is true, but without what comes next, it will work at a fraction of its capacity. The interception pattern is real. The depletion doctrine is real. The depth inversion is real. But knowing the name of the pattern does not repair the receiver. Knowing why you are foggy does not clear the fog. There is a step between diagnosis and restoration that requires something beyond awareness, and that step is where everything changes. Here is what you now know that you did not know before this message began. The fog is not your fault. The delay was not punishment. The exhaustion was not weakness. 3 mechanisms have been operating beneath the surface of your spiritual life, each one reducing the capacity of the receiver God gave you. The interception pattern taught your brain to shut down at the threshold of breakthrough. The depletion doctrine convinced you that running on empty was holiness, and the split capacity, the desynchronization of your hemispheres, reduced the bandwidth through which you receive everything God is sending. The why is clear. The what is clear. The who is you. That is who you have been. That is not who you are required to stay. You now know what has been blocking you. The only question left is this. Now that you know, what do you do with it? There is a team of neuroscientists led by Dr. Daniel Barone in New York City who spent years doing something that sounds almost unreasonable until you understand the science behind it. They took over an hour of clinical neural sync technology, the kind of whole brain activation protocol that was previously only available in specialized medical settings at costs most people cannot afford. And through an intensive compression and refinement process, they turned it into an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence. 8 minutes a day, headphones on, eyes closed. That is the entirety of the physical requirement. They call it the genius switch. It is not a brainwave product, not a meditation app, not a sound frequency designed to put you in a particular mood. It is a targeted auditory sequence specifically engineered based on the Nobel Prize research of Dr. Roger Sperry to reconnect the two hemispheres and restore the whole brain activation that was your default state as a child. The mechanism is hemisphere synchronization. The result is the restoration of the receiver. The genius switch is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one who understands that God prepared not only the promise, but the mind that must walk into it. The person who has been sincere for years, who has done the work, who has felt the call clearly and kept returning to it even when the evidence was not cooperating, and who is willing to stop treating the fog as a character flaw and start treating it as something that has a specific address. Most people who hear about this will scroll past. They have accepted the reduced version of their mind as permanent. You are still here. That is not coincidence. That is the specific kind of persistence that belongs to the person this was built for. A woman from California described what it felt like before she found this. She had tried everything: prayer, journaling, meditation, every practice her community offered, and she kept arriving at the same experience. She believed the words, she could not feel the reality behind them, not in her body, not in the lived texture of her days. After 10 days, she said something cleared. A channel that had been blocked was suddenly open, not because she tried harder. Because the receiver had been repaired. A man from Texas described something similar, someone who had spent years holding things together for everyone around him, while his own interior life became thin and distant. He said prayer had started to feel like talking into a wall. The frequency was right, but the receiver was off. 2 weeks later, he woke up and described his mind as running on all of what it was supposed to run on. The fog that had been so consistent, he stopped registering it as fog was gone. That is because of what the team Dr. Barone leads spent years building. Colleagues of Dr. Barone suggested that what he created would be incredible value, even at $500. An in-person neurofeedback session runs $300 per hour. A home machine costs $7,000. His team cut every middleman out of the process so that people who could never fly to his New York office could still access what was developed there. The genius switch is not $500. It is not $200. It is not $100. It was released at $49. And today, on the page where Dr. Barone made it available, there is an additional $10 off, $39. That is 180 times less expensive than the home alternative. It comes with 4 free bonuses. A guided visualization created by a top-rated creator on the Calm app, designed to help you see your life unfolding across 4 areas: money, love, health, and happiness. A smart grocery shopping guide that identifies 10 common foods that cause brain fog and includes shortcuts that save over $100 a month. A classic manifestation book over 100 years old, considered the root text behind every modern technique, included free, and a printable 5 habits infographic designed to anchor the 5 most important daily practices for creating your ideal future. All of that is backed by an unconditional 100% money-back guarantee. Listen once, listen 80 times. If it does not do what it has done for over 18,000 people who have already used it, every dollar is returned. No conditions, no questions, no time limit on how many times you have listened before deciding. That is not a purchase. That is a deposit you can recall at any moment. The $39 price is not guaranteed beyond this page. Dr. Barone and his team have communicated that the price will increase. That is not pressure. That is the reality of what limited-run access to clinical-grade neurological restoration looks like when it is made available to the public for the first time. One thing worth naming directly: if you search for anything that sounds similar on streaming platforms or free audio sites, you will find tracks. Dr. Barone and his team studied them. Most had no neural sync technology embedded at all. They carried the name because the barrier to labeling something that way is essentially zero. The mechanism is what makes the difference, and the mechanism only exists in what his team built. The direct page is the only verified source. That is where the link in the description below and in the pinned comment points. If your spirit resonates with what has been described, the link in the description and in the pinned comment points to where Dr. Barone and his team made it available, not anywhere else. You can read everything on their page before making any decision. Every detail is laid out clearly. The tool does not replace God. The tool does not replace obedience. It does not surrender for you. It does not close the door for you. What God is doing in you is not conditional on any tool, but a tool that restores the receiver gives what God is doing more of what it was designed to land in. And what God is doing in you right now deserves the full version of you to land in. There is something that happens when the receiver comes back online that I need to prepare you for, because it will disorient you if you are not expecting it. You will start to notice things that were always there, but that you could not perceive through the fog. Opportunities that were sitting in front of you for months will suddenly become visible. Relationships that felt stagnant will begin to shift, not because the other person changed, but because you are now perceiving them through a restored lens. Decisions that felt impossibly complex will simplify, not because the situation changed, but because the mind processing the situation is now operating with both hemispheres instead of one. This is the documented experience of over 18,000 people who have used what Dr. Barone built. When whole brain activation is restored, the capacity that was suppressed begins to resurface rapidly, because it was never destroyed. It was deactivated. The wiring is already there. It just needs to be reconnected. I want you to picture something. Imagine waking up 6 months from now, and the first thought in your mind is not anxiety. It is not the weight of everything undone. It is a quiet, clear awareness of exactly what today requires, and a settled confidence that you have what it takes to meet it. Not because your circumstances changed, because the mind meeting those circumstances is no longer fractured. The fog is gone. The static is gone. The signal from heaven that used to arrive in fragments is now arriving in full sentences. And for the first time in years, you do not have to strain to hear it. You sit in that morning stillness and something is different in your chest. The knot that has lived there so long you forgot it was not supposed to be there has dissolved. You breathe, and the breath goes all the way down. Your prayer does not feel like talking into concrete. It feels like a conversation, and the response, the one you have been waiting years to hear clearly, arrives not as a shout, but as a knowing. A deep, settled, unmistakable knowing that what was promised is not just coming. It is already here. It has been here. You just could not see it through the interference. That version of you already exists, not in a distant universe, not in a theoretical future. It exists on the other side of a receiver that is currently running at partial capacity. The distance between who you are right now and who you were designed to be is not measured in years of effort. It is measured in the gap between a disrupted signal and a restored one. And that gap can close faster than the enemy wants you to believe. And for the chosen one who felt something stir when the mind was mentioned earlier, that door is still open in the description. It is a small step, but small steps taken from a clear mind have changed entire seasons. Now I need to address the fourth mechanism that has been blocking you, and this one is personal. It is the one you will not find in any teaching or any book, because it operates in the space between your faith and your fear, and most teachers are not willing to go there. You have been afraid of your own power, not the power to do harm, the power to succeed, the power to actually step into the fullness of what God has been preparing. And that fear has been disguised so effectively that you have never recognized it as fear. You have called it humility. You have called it patience. You have called it waiting on God. But there is a version of waiting that is obedience, and there is a version of waiting that is hiding. And you have been living in the second one. I call this the threshold terror. It is the unconscious belief that if you actually receive what God has promised, something terrible will follow. That success will expose you. That abundance will corrupt you. That stepping into your full calling will attract an attack you are not equipped to survive. And this belief did not come from nowhere. It was installed by every experience in your life where something good was followed immediately by something devastating. You got the promotion, and then the relationship collapsed. You felt the breakthrough, and then the health crisis arrived. You stepped into joy, and then the ground shifted beneath you. And your nervous system learned a pattern. Good things are followed by bad things. Therefore, to protect yourself, stay small, stay hidden, stay at the threshold, never cross it. That is not wisdom, that is trauma operating as theology. And it has been the most effective tool the enemy has ever deployed against you, because it does not require him to do anything. He installed the pattern years ago, and now you run it on autopilot. You block your own breakthrough before he even has to show up. You sabotage the door God opens because your body remembers what happened the last time you walked through one. Think about the last time something genuinely good was about to happen in your life. Not something small, something significant. A door that opened, a relationship that deepened, a financial shift that appeared on the horizon. What did you do? If you are honest, you started bracing. You started scanning for the catch. You started preparing for the collapse that always follows the rise. And that bracing, that preemptive withdrawal from your own blessing, is the threshold terror doing exactly what it was programmed to do. It keeps you safe by keeping you small. And the enemy watches from a distance, arms folded, because you are doing his job for him. But here is what the threshold terror does not account for. The version of you that walked through those previous doors was operating on a fractured receiver. The version of you that experienced the backlash after the blessing was navigating with half a brain, depleted reserves, and an interception pattern running in the background. You were not equipped then. That does not mean you are not equipped now, and it definitely does not mean you will not be equipped when God finishes what he is currently building in you. The fear of your own power is the last wall the enemy has, and it is the thinnest one, because it is built entirely on a lie. The lie that God gives gifts he does not protect. The lie that calling comes without covering. The lie that the same God who screamed at heaven to clear the path for this message would then leave you exposed once you walked through it. That is not the God you serve. That is the caricature the enemy painted to keep you frozen at the door. Consider the pattern of every person in sacred text who was given a massive assignment. Moses was not sent into Pharaoh's court alone. He was given Aaron. He was given signs. He was given a pillar of fire that went ahead of him. David was not sent against Goliath without preparation. The years of killing the lion and the bear in the fields where no one was watching were not accidents. They were training for a threshold David had not yet reached. When he crossed it, the covering was already in place. The stone did not miss because David had good aim. The stone did not miss because God had already cleared the trajectory. And God is clearing yours right now. I want you to do something right now. I want you to notice where in your body the fear of success lives, not the fear of failure. Everyone knows where that one sits. The fear of success, the one that tightens when you imagine actually having the thing you have been praying for. Feel it. Name its location, your throat, your stomach, your hands. And now, I want you to say one thing to it, silently or out loud. You do not own this space anymore. That is all. You do not need to understand the full mechanism right now. You do not need to resolve every trauma that built that wall. You just need to serve it. Notice that you are aware of it. Because the threshold terror cannot survive awareness, it operates in the dark, and you just turned on the light. Type, "I push through now," in the comments if you felt something shift when you said those words, because what just happened is not small. The enemy has been hiding behind that wall for years, and you just knocked on it from the inside. The provision God has already placed near you becomes visible in the synchronized state in a way it does not in the partial state. Not because the provision is new, because the receiver that can recognize it is restored. What has been arranged for you is already in motion. The question is whether you arrive at the meeting point with the receiver online. Every week the synchronization stays disrupted, is another week the offer God has arranged moves through a receiver operating below its designed capacity. Not because the offer is withdrawn, because the depth of reception determines the depth of the arrival. What is coming deserves the full version of you. I need to say something here that not everyone will want to hear. If this resonates and you do nothing, the resonance fades. That is how the human mind works. Insight without action has a half-life of about 72 hours. 3 days from now, the fog will have settled back in. The clarity you are feeling right now will have thinned, and the voice of the interception pattern will resume its schedule. Not because the truth you learn today is not real, because truth requires implementation to survive. Recognition without response becomes the most painful kind of memory. The kind where you knew what to do, and you watched yourself not do it. I do not want that for you. And more importantly, neither does the one who screamed at heaven to make sure you heard this. I want you to picture a different kind of morning, not 6 months from now, 1 year from now. You are standing in a kitchen that may or may not look like the one you are in right now, but something about the way you stand in it is fundamentally different. There is no rush. There is no dread. The first hour of your day is not spent recovering from the night. It is spent receiving. You hold a cup in your hands and you feel the warmth of it, and for the first time in a long time, you are not using the warmth to distract you from something cold inside. The warmth is just warmth. The morning is just morning. And you are just you, standing in the fullness of a mind that is no longer at war with itself. Your children, or the people you love, walk into the room, and you do not feel the drain, you feel the connection. Because the part of you that used to absorb everyone else's pain before you could even register your own has been restructured, not shut down. Recalibrated. You still feel deeply. You always will. But the feeling no longer depletes you because the source feeding your capacity has been reconnected. Whole brain activation does not remove your sensitivity. It gives your sensitivity a supply line. And a sensitivity with a supply line is not a burden, it is a superpower. The project God placed in your heart, the one you have been circling for years without being able to land on, is no longer circling. You are in it. Not because you found more discipline, because the fog that used to descend every time you approached it lifted. The ideas that used to arrive in fragments are arriving complete. The connections you used to strain to make are assembling themselves in your mind before you even sit down to work. And the voice of the interception pattern, the one that used to whisper that maybe you are not built for this, has gone silent. Not because you argued it into submission, because the receiver it was designed to disrupt is now operating at a frequency the pattern cannot reach. That is not a fantasy. That is the trajectory you are on right now if you do not stop it. And the only thing that has been stopping it is a set of mechanisms that now have names. The interception pattern, the depletion doctrine, the split capacity, the threshold terror. 4 walls that were invisible yesterday are visible today, and walls that are visible can be walked through. Before this message ends, I am going to speak something over your life that I believe will mark the beginning of a shift you will trace back to this exact moment. But I need you to do something first. I need you to be fully present for it, not scrolling, not half listening, fully here, because what is about to be spoken is not general encouragement. It is specific to the person who has been sitting in this message for this long, hearing things they have never heard before, and feeling something they have not felt in years. That person is you, and what comes next belongs to you. Close your eyes if you are able. Take one breath, deeper than your last 10. Feel your feet on whatever surface they are touching. Feel the weight of your body in the chair or on the floor or wherever you are right now. And for the next few moments, I want you to let every identity that was placed on you by someone else fall away. The labels, the diagnoses, the limitations, the stories people told about you that you accidentally started believing, let them fall. They are not yours. They were never yours. They were placed on you by people who could not see what God sees. And what God sees is not a person who is behind. Not a person who missed the window. Not a person whose receiver is permanently broken. What God sees is the person he screamed at heaven for, the one he moved principalities aside for, the one whose message was intercepted multiple times, and who is hearing it right now anyway, because nothing in the spiritual realm has the authority to permanently separate you from what was written for you before you took your first breath. Now I want you to place one hand on your chest. You do not have to do this physically if you cannot. You can do it in your mind. But feel the space beneath your hand. That is the space where the receiver lives. That is the space where the signal from heaven lands when it arrives uninterrupted. And right now, in this moment, I want you to imagine that space warming. Not with effort, not with straining, just warming. Like the sun just reached a part of you that has been in shadow for years. That warmth is not your imagination. That warmth is what it feels like when the interference thins and the signal begins to arrive at the bandwidth it was designed to reach you at. Hold that warmth. Do not try to understand it. Do not try to name it. Just let it be there. And as you hold it, let the 4 names fall away. Let the interception pattern release its grip on your threshold. Let the depletion doctrine stop whispering that you need to be emptier. Let the split capacity begin to close. As the 2 halves of the mind God gave you, remember that they were always meant to work as one. And let the threshold terror dissolve in the warmth of a God who does not leave his children unprotected on the other side of the doors. He opens. I want to speak something now, and I want you to receive it not as words on a screen or sounds in your ears, but as a transmission from the one who made sure this message found you today. Chosen one, the season of interception is ending, not gradually, decisively. The fog that has covered your mind for years is being lifted, not by your effort, but by the hand of the one who designed the mind. The fog was hiding. The interception pattern that taught you to stop yourself at every threshold is being overwritten by a new pattern. A pattern of completion. A pattern of crossing. A pattern where the door opens and you walk through it without bracing for the collapse, because the one who opened it is the same one who will hold it open until you are fully through. The depletion doctrine that convinced you that emptiness was holiness is being replaced by a new understanding. That God did not call you to burn out. He called you to burn bright. And burning bright requires a source that is continuously fed, not a reservoir that is continuously drained. From this day forward, you have permission to receive, not as weakness. As the design specification of the instrument God created you to be, the split capacity that reduced your brain to half its designed operation is being addressed, not in the distant future, in this season. The two hemispheres that God designed to work as one are being called back into alignment. The creativity and the logic, the intuition and the analysis, the spiritual ear and the strategic mind. They are reconnecting, and when they do, you will not just hear God more clearly. You will see the path He has been illuminating all along, the one you could not see through the static. And the threshold terror that kept you frozen at the door of your own blessing is losing its power in this moment, not because you conquered it through willpower, because the lie it was built on has been exposed. God does not give gifts without covering. God does not open doors without protection. And the God who screamed at heaven to ensure this message reached you is not about to abandon you on the other side of the door. He is currently holding open. I declare over your life that the receiver is coming back online. I declare that the fog is lifting, and what emerges beneath it is not a broken version of you. It is the original version, the one with full capacity, the one with clear signal, the one who was designed to receive at a bandwidth that most people around you cannot even comprehend. You are not a reduced version of something that used to be great. You are the full version that has been temporarily dimmed, and the dimming is over. I declare that what God has prepared for you is not delayed. It is staged. It is positioned. It is waiting at the exact coordinates where a fully synchronized mind will recognize it. And that mind is yours. Not the mind you had yesterday. The mind that is being restored right now, in this moment, as you sit in the resonance of everything this message has carried to you. I declare that the enemy's word is revoked. Every assignment against your clarity is cancelled. Every structure that positioned itself between you and the broadcast from heaven is being dismantled. Not tomorrow. Now, with the same fury that caused God to raise his voice at principalities that thought they had the authority to interfere with what belongs to his child, they were wrong. And you are about to see just how wrong they were. If every declaration you just heard landed somewhere real inside you, type, "It is done" in the comments. Let that be your seal. Let that be the timestamp on the moment the interception ended and the reception began. Before you go, I want to ask you to do something that has nothing to do with you and everything to do with someone you know. There is a person in your life right now, someone you have been thinking about during this message, someone who is going through something they have not told anyone about, someone whose receiver is as disrupted as yours was, and who does not yet have the language to understand why. You know who they are. You saw their face while I was speaking. I want you to send this message to that person, not because it will help me, because it will reach them the way it reached you. At the exact moment, the interception was trying to keep it from landing. You are not just the receiver of this message. You are the relay, and the person you are thinking of right now is next in the chain that God set in motion when he screamed at heaven to clear the path. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, gently press the like button so that it reaches someone who needs to hear it today. And if you have not yet joined this community of chosen ones who gather here to receive what the world is not equipped to deliver, take a moment to join now. Not for me, for the version of you that will return here when the next message arrives, and for the community that grows stronger every time one more chosen one takes their place in it. The resource from Dr. Barone and his team is placed in the description and in the pinned comment for those whose spirit confirmed it. That is the only place I will mention it. The rest of what remains in this moment belongs entirely to you and to the one who fought to make sure you heard it. And so it is.